The reason why Bravo came to me and gave me these trailers is because they were sick and tired of me telling everything that was going on in the season. I want them to know the peace treaty is off. Because we broke 2 Married to Medicine exclusives, they told me they were going to take the trailer somewhere else. And I said, if you did that, I'm going to go to war. And when I say go to war, it means that I will recap every episode of the show before the show comes out.
Sound like Bravo just need to give B. Scott a show.
Thank you. Andy Cohen does not need to be hosting the reunions for black shows.
The reason why I had to get my sick ass out to bed was because Love B. Scott did a spot onto the Breakfast Club. So y'all know Breakfast Club, DJ Envy, Charlamagne the God, whatever. They are having different co-hosts come on. And this week it is Love B. Scott from lovebscott.com. Y'all know Love B. Scott, blogger. He was a YouTuber, an OG in the blogging game. I remember years ago, like 2009, circa 2009, 2010, he had Mariah Carey on to do an interview for the Love Muffins. And so Love B. Scott is an OG. But when I saw him on today's episode of The Breakfast Club, I was very compelled to make a video because a lot of the things I just wasn't understanding, like it just wasn't making sense to me. And I was just like, okay, like it made sense, but I just had to question it. And I wanted to come on to make sure that I wasn't tripping. So what caught my eye, of course, is all of the tea that he spilled about Bravo and Married to Medicine. And he had some opinions about Andy Cohen and Nene Leakes and Portia Williams. And of course, season 15 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. For those of you who don't know, Love B. Scott, I would say for the past 3 or so seasons, if I'm not mistaken, he's had this exclusive to the trailer. So every year when they get wrapped up, done filming, and they start editing the first half of the series and they get ready to, promote the show and do the trailer and release the trailer, they've given the trailer, I believe for the past 3 or so seasons, they've given the trailer to Love B. Scott. And the reason why they've given him the trailer, according to him, is because they felt like, okay, we scratch your back, so that you scratch ours. Okay, so Love B. Scott had all of the exclusives. He's close with a few of the housewives. He has, sources who are executives, producers, and things like that. And on occasion, he would basically be spilling all the storylines, which he still be doing till today. So Bravo came to him and they were like, okay, well, listen, let's make a pact because we don't want you to spill all the storylines before people can actually watch the show. Like, cable numbers are going down. People aren't as interested in the show no more. RHOA was once Bravo's #1 show. And I was like, the 3rd or 4th watched on Bravo. So they went to Love B. Scott and said, listen, if we give you the exclusive to the trailer every year, would you agree to scale back on the information that you receive about all of the storylines, stop spilling the storylines before the show even airs? So I guess they came to some sort of an agreement. He explained this all on lovebscott.org. He explained this today on The Breakfast Club, right? But he recently said that the peace treaty is off. Okay, Love B. Scott from lovebscott.com said that the peace treaty between him and Bravo is off because recently B. Scott broke some Married to Medicine tea. And I believe it had something to do with Anila being fired, Contessa being fired, maybe Phaedra coming back on, something like that, like casting news. I guess he broke some Married to Medicine tea, which of course is under Bravo. And I think Bravo then came to him and threatened, okay, well, since you want to spill all the storylines and the tea for Married to Medicine, after we kind of came to an agreement that you would scale back on the tea, I'm guessing Bravo threatened to take away the RHOA trailer from him. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So basically he said, ever since they threatened him, he claims that he told them, if y'all do that, okay, if y'all take away this exclusive of the trailer, you know what I mean, then I will, I think he used the word war. I'm waging war on Bravo. And he claims if they take away the trailer, then he's willing to recap every single episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta before the first episode even airs, which I found to be really interesting. So that was my first glimpse of, okay, it doesn't really seem, and it's just the fact that Love B. Scott, I love the tea. I love the tea, but it's not really making sense to me. Because then he goes on to say that, he's interested in doing a show at Bravo. And I think DJ Envy and Charlamagne, they were like, oh, well, you need to do a show. You know everything. You should have a show and you should host the reunions. And Love B. Scott is like, yeah, like he agreed in a sense. It made me feel like he's been thinking that himself. So I'm like, okay. You're not opposed to having a show, a recap show on Bravo. It seems like you're interested in a show on Bravo. It seems like, he's vying for, I guess, a position to maybe host the reunions for the Black Housewives shows. But that is weird to me because at the same time, you're on the radio airwaves basically saying that you waging war on Bravo and that they threatened you. And, you're basically laying it out that your relationship with Bravo really isn't that good, but yet you want to maybe one day host the reunions or have your own show on Bravo. Like, that doesn't really make sense to me. Am I the only one who's thinking that? I thought that was weird. So then he went on to say that Andy Cohen doesn't have the cultural relevance, nor does he have the finesse to host the reunions for Potomac and Atlanta. And then that's when Charlamagne the God and DJ Envy was like, well, you need to be hosting the reunion or whatever. And he was like, I agree. And then Love B. Scott said that no one has an extensive history with the Housewives like him. And I was like, okay, let's back it up. Andy Cohen, and I feel like, I have an unpopular opinion. I feel like Andy Cohen just does. I feel like Andy Cohen does just fine doing the reunions. I honestly do. He's not perfect. Does he have racial blind spots like every other white person? Of course. I mean, he is white. He's never lived a day, as a black person. So does he necessarily have the cultural relevance? No. So I do agree with that. But at the same time, I feel like he's a good host. I really do. I feel like he asks, most of the times, 90% of the time, I feel like he asks the questions that we want the answers to. I feel like for years, there's like this campaign or this bandwagon to get Andy Cohen fired or to get Andy Cohen not to be hosting the Housewife shows. And I get the fact that he's white and he's facilitating these conversations between black women. But I don't know. I don't feel like the rift is big enough to replace him as a host. Then he says no one has more of an extensive history with the Housewives other than him. Love B. Scott is saying this himself. That doesn't really make sense to me because how can you say that your history with the Housewives is more extensive when Andy Cohen damn near started the franchise. He basically founded it. He created it. He's the executive producer. He's been within the mix since day one, since Vicki, the OG from the OC. Then New York with Ramona and Bethany and them. Then Atlanta with Nene, Kim, and Sheree and them. Andy Cohen has birthed these women's career. He basically discovered Nene. If we really want to be honest at the situation, he discovered Teresa Giudice. He discovered Bethany Frankel. Not saying that these folks were nobodies before, but I didn't know about them until Andy Cohen, he produced a show called Housewives of whatever city. So that also didn't make sense to me. It's like, oh, no one has, I have the most extensive history with the Housewives. How is your history with the Housewives more extensive than the man that created the show or the man that has executively produced the show since day one? That don't make no sense to me. So it's like you're vying for a reunion job. You want to be the host for the reunion. It seems like, and this is just me, and listen, let me just say this before I go any further. Love B. Scott. He's an OG, love him. But I have questions because it's not clicking for me. You're vying for a spot as a reunion host for the Black Housewife shows, it seems. You are not striking down the idea that you should have your own show on Bravo, it seems. But yet, you're telling this story about how Bravo threatened you and now you want to wage war and this, that, and the third. And then you're also saying that the face of the network should be replaced. And then along with that, y'all, Love B. Scott also said that Nene wasn't wrong. I'm assuming he was, speaking on the lawsuit drama between Nene and Bravo and Andy and him, right? Love B. Scott said that Nene wasn't wrong. She went about it the wrong way. So you're basically agreeing with Nene that Bravo cultivates a hostile work environment through discrimination. And you think that you should host the reunions. Y'all, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's just like you want to have a hosting job, but you're on the airwaves saying these not so positive things about the network. So, yeah, y'all got to let me know how y'all feel about that in the comments down below. I thought I was the only one. I feel like my opinion is going to be unpopular, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. I don't mean to come on here and talk about other bloggers. If you've noticed, I've tried not to talk about bloggers as much as possible. But that just was irking me in my head, and I just had to get that out. So if you kind of feel a similar way, let me know. If I'm wrong and if I'm not seeing something, let me know in the comments as well. But speaking of Nene, one thing that I didn't want to bring up, which now I'm about to get on Bravo's ass, is the fact that I did not know that Vicki Gunvalson, the OG from the OC, sued Bravo at one point in time. Right? I just found this out like 2 days ago. I was scrolling and trolling on a TikTok, right? And I ran across this clip of Vicki Gunvalson at one of the reunions. I think it was like season 14 or something. And she filed a lawsuit against Bravo, I think, for defamation of character. This is an article from People magazine. This was from November 4th, 2019. Real Housewife of OC's Vicki Gunvalson withdraws lawsuit against co-star Kelly Dodd and Bravo. Okay. TMZ reported that Gunvalson was taking legal action against Kelly Dodd after Dodd allegedly made statements that could negatively affect Gunvalson's reputation in her business. Gunvalson is the president and founder of Koto Insurance and Financial Services. Okay. I lost my spot. Give me 1 second. According to documents obtained by the outlet, Kelly Dodd slammed Gunvalson, who was reduced to a friend of the housewives this season, while the ladies of OC were shooting in Key West, Florida, allegedly saying you prey on older people. All right. So she ended up filing a lawsuit against Kelly Dodd for defamation of character, for basically making it seem like, girl, you're scamming your clients. You're a scammer. You're a Jen Shaw. She also sued Bravo on top of that for defamation of character because, of course, they aired the defaming statements, the defamatory statements, excuse me. And so Vicki ended up having a heart-to-heart with production and the executives, and she ended up withdrawing the lawsuit, and they came to some sort of an agreement. What's interesting is that Vicki filed this lawsuit, I think, one, because her character was defamed, but also I think it was a little bit of the Nene syndrome, where I also feel as though that year she was demoted to a friend of after being the Nene of the show for 14 plus seasons or 13 plus seasons, however long she was on there for. I think a part of her filing that lawsuit was her saying, I'm bitter, I'm mad. I'm mad at the fact that Bravo just threw me away. I'm mad at the fact that I helped Bravo build up the Housewives franchise. I mean, Vicki is the original housewife. Before Nene, before Bethany, before Teresa, before Kyle Richards. She was first. And she got demoted all of a sudden. And she didn't like that. So I think one of the reasons why she included Bravo in that suit was because I think a part of her was just bitter and mad. I feel the same way about Nene. I think a part of the reason why Nene, filed the suit was because she was bitter, angry, and upset. A disgruntled ex-contractor. I say all of that to say that it's interesting that Vicki is still contracted by Bravo. She is a friend of this season on The Real Housewives of OC, along with Taylor Armstrong, who moved from Beverly Hills to OC. So I find it mighty interesting how Vicki can sue Bravo, but they can get over it. But Nene sues Bravo, and can't even get no producer, no executive, no Andy Cohen on the phone. Bravo, I don't like that. Bravo, I don't like that. It seems like y'all are playing favorites, obviously. Now, I don't know if it's because Nene brought in the racial component. I don't know if it's because she said that Andy Cohen was a racist. I don't know if it's because I don't know. I don't know if they're not being lenient with her because she cried racism. But it just seems like a double standard how Vicki can sue the network, withdraw the lawsuit, and still have a job over there at Bravo. So, yeah. Y'all got to let me know how y'all feel about the entire situation. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to create a great day.